MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Go. This is what we do and why we do it, baby. We rollin'!
Covering MMA from all over the world, this is the premier stop for all your combat sports needs. MMA Junkie Radio, the only show broadcasting live from the Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. The lights are on and the mics are hot. It's time to get your MMA fix, junkies. Take it away, Big John.
Gorgeous George and Goes, are you ready? Junkie Nation, are you ready? Let's get it on!
From the fight capital of the world, inside the beautiful Mandalay Bay Racing Sportsbook, you're listening to the MMA Junkie Radio Show, the only show that matters. I'm your host, Gorgeous George. With me, as always, is the devious and dastardly Goes, our ace co-host. Why are you pointing at him? Your Goes.
I was jumping the gun a little bit. I'm sorry.
Oh, to my left, it's the fight analyst, Dan Tom. Backy's producing Josh, Jumbo Josh.
Yo.
And our special co-host for the day is UFC Vice President of Regulatory Affairs, also a former executive chairman of the Nevada State Athletic Commission and a member of the the State of Nevada's Boxing Hall of Fame and the World Boxing Hall of Fame.
Hey, look at that.
Which I'm not sure if we're going to talk about as much as this one as we will in Nevada, but either way, I still got this shirt.
But I was just thinking, first of all, the music we don't have tonight.
Ooh.
The generation of people who only
Guy and
What about that?
Mill said it was fine.
Oh, okay. Time Mike came around. I got that from my high school.
saying any of this. Get on.
It's going on.
No. It's what's going on. I thought it was.
I don't think so.
Back me up.
Huh. Okay.
Be wrong.
I'm sure if he.
Wait for it. Get it on.
Back at a certain part of the 90s, it was like a cheap pop, whether it was like a TV sitcom.
Look it up. I'm going to
Time, probably in the mid to late.
info on you as to when that song was released. Okay, all right.
This Google is.
We are, like Mark, going to be talking to of New York. Now he hosts at the in Channel 93. In fact, you probably heard the show. Of course, he actually did the Fight Club show way back. And I want to talk some. There's another one coming up. The Rebels have won. Yeah. So, you know, things.
Out of 8 or.
As a fan, or do you?
Yeah.
Or do
Here at Cashman Field, as the Oakland Raiders in an exhibition game.
I did not
in
know
the,
that
in
one.
the AFL days. I got a lot of trivia.
Are you ready for that one? Are you ready for the Raiders to storm the town? And
yeah, very much so. I've made inquiries about helping them with the chains and the clocks and game operations.
Wow.
Because we do that for UNLV. And
but that means you're committing to 8 Sundays. Well, I guess you could still do your UFC duties. Maybe you can't oversee Prague and jump on the Concorde and be back in time. But
no, but obviously it wouldn't only be me. We'd have several people, and just like with UNLV, Saturday night they're here at home, and I'll be in Brooklyn.
You know, a few years ago, I think it was the Sun Bowl was one of your last games, right? As an official.
My last game was the Cotton Bowl.
Cotton Bowl, okay.
With,
I knew it was in the state of Texas. I thought that might have been it for your.
That was with Bama and Texas Tech. The year before it became real Bama now with Nick. But what a big thrill for me to be in the Cotton Bowl with 75,000 people, and Bama won, I think, 12-10 or something like that.
Did you see on Sunday the NFL had their first female
Sarah
official?
Thomas. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very. It's great. Just another official now. You don't even talk to her about her as a woman. She's an NFL official.
And you know, other than her, other than the camera pointing to her a couple times when it was said, I couldn't have even told. I wasn't even concerned about it or anything like that. You know what I mean? Because imagine the level of officiating in the NFL is probably the highest of all the sports. You know, in terms of the vetting and the experience and everything you need to get through to get to them. And so I imagine, you know, she must have a lot of years under her belt and must be a quality official.
Yeah, she worked in different conferences in college. Had to work at least 5 to 10 years in college, and she's been in the NFL her 5th year now. And so mazel tov to her. Good for her.
And so much for defense wins championships. All of the offensive powerhouses are in the conference championships. I distributed some odds there. If you guys want to look, you have an NFL sheet as well. Let's see here. The Rams, of course, you know they can score. The Saints, the Patriots, and the Chiefs. They kept it simple. 3-57 for both favorites at home. The Chiefs host the Patriots, and they're -3, and the total's 57. The Saints host the Rams, 3-57. And I'm wondering if people would really love for that Rams KC rematch. You know, at the Coliseum, I think there was like a 50-something to 50-something final. And that would be, you know, pretty epic to have them back in the Super Bowl. But that would mean the road team would have to win in New Orleans. And as you can see, that's not an easy thing to do, although the Eagles definitely, you know, made a game out of it. Yeah, the Patriots, they weren't threatened at all by San Diego.
No, I was amazed at how good they looked the first half. Then they let off
35-7, right, or something like that?
Yeah, the first 4 times they scored touchdowns, or the first 5 times. So
yeah, so Brady is still bringing it in his 40s, not stopping any. A lot of people had said, including myself, he's going to age and he's going to fall off, just like they all do. You know, they all lose the father time. And I thought this might be the season. He looks so sharp, though.
And that Tony Michel was running like crazy.
Yeah.
And the receivers, even without slow down, but his blocking is on one game. So
Josh Gordon here in the season.
Yep.
Gordon, somehow they can just plug and play. It doesn't matter. The Patriots are a machine. I don't know if we'll ever see anything like that again, man. This is a very, very competitive league, and it's a league built for parity. That's why the worst placed team, I mean, this happens in all professional sports, but the worst placed team gets the benefit of drafting first, and then the schedule is also weighed so that the worst placed teams get a softer schedule the following year. The salary cap distributes, you know, makes it fair for all the teams, and yet somehow they're still there every year.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I'm actually looking at something right now. It's a meme. It says, not everybody loves the same team, but everyone hates Tom Brady. I actually disagree. I don't really hate Tom Brady. There's certain players where you just kind of go, ugh, but he's never really been a jackass or anything. He's just good.
Well, what I just said was I hope KC and the Rams play because of what that special game we had.
The Monday night game?
Yeah, and I did say, and I've had it to hear with Tom Brady, I don't hate him, but enough with the – I just want to see another team.
Hey,
I'd love to see the Chiefs there.
He's also lost Super Bowls. People forget about that.
He's lost 3, yeah.
There's a quarterback out there that never lost a Super Bowl. That's pretty impressive.
Well, there's 2 of them. Terry Bradshaw won 4 and lost none, and Joe Montana won 4 and lost none. I mean, I'm sure there's a bunch of 1-0s. I think Phil Simms is 2-0, but he didn't even play in one of them. Hostetler, was the other one.
And there's Jim Kelly, who was
0-4. Man.
But he's like 2 feet from a wide right for winning that one.
If only he had Adam Vinatieri, which, by the way, this might be his last season. You know, he's like 46 and still kicking.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he missed 2.
Yeah.
That makes me wonder, Mark, when you're watching sports as a fan, whether it's like a football, a basketball, what have you, are you able to separate that and be able to enjoy as a fan, or does part of you maybe, I don't want to say your job or stature gets in the way, but, you know, for example, I'd probably come across your desk if you were
longer, but he was doing it for a while, former referee. Watch it as a fan. I try to watch as a fan.
Okay, there you go.
In the blue line. But when I'm watching
on the broadcast as well, there's a lot of poke
which we've never had before that we're going to look at.
So what Mark's alluding to, you think they're going to have to alter that rule?
Thinker who preceded him. We learned a lot from Chuck. We learned a lot from each other, and I think we've grown up in the combat sports together. Just Mark, it's just a pleasure being on with you.
Thanks, Rand. Before we talk about anything, Friday night, are you going to be at the Garden?
I am going to be at the Garden. Hopefully, you're coming in for it.
I'm as long as I'm going to be in Brooklyn on Saturday, I might as well come over to see Dennis. I want to call him Dennis Andrade, but I guess that's the Portuguese. But Dennis Andrade, I want to see him fight, so I think I'll be there Friday night and find you.
Fantastic. Because Jerry and I get off the air at 8 o'clock, and as soon as we get off, the Sirius XM limo takes us about 15 blocks downtown to Madison Square Garden.
Good. All right. I'll look forward to it. What about Brooklyn on Saturday? Are you available?
You know what? I will check. I knew you had something coming up and everything, and I actually meant to ask you about that. I will check on that, and I will get back to you tomorrow.
Okay. Very good.
All right. Very cool. So that one also has 2 title fights, right?
Yeah. I mean, that Dillashaw fight with...
No, I mean the boxing. Amanda Serrano's on the card as well. Chris Algieri. Randy?
I just know the Andrade fight. I don't know about the other fight.
Randy, will Amanda Serrano be fighting on that card as well?
Amanda Serrano is on the card. I mean, she is really, she's very special. The unfortunate thing about the females, as when you're on top, there's just not a lot of competition through and through. So, I mean, they take what they can, but she really is a very, very special fighter. She really is.
Yeah, you have Chris Algieri, guys. Remember him?
Yeah.
He's going to be on the card as well. He fought Manny Pacquiao, who, by the way, fights the next day here at the MGM. Lots of boxing going on.
Right.
Yeah, Chris Algieri, former 140-pound champ, he really made a mistake. He admitted that he went after the money. He moved up, and he fought the legendary Manny Pacquiao in a fight that he just didn't belong to be in. And Manny Pacquiao took him apart, and then later on he fought Errol Spence, another fight that he just shouldn't have been in. But he's back, and I'm told he's looking absolutely tremendous in training, and he's always in 1,000% shape. Jerry and I can't believe that the one thing about Algieri, this is a guy who could fight all night and not even breathe hard, but he cannot basically knock a cherry off a hot fudge sundae.
Yeah, he's not a big puncher. You're right.
Not at all, but he is fighting, and he's just a love. When you know him and you watch how he treats the fans and everything, he really is just a fantastic person. And so he's going to be on that card at the Garden on Friday night.
Mm-hmm. So isn't it cool now, Randy? I think the tide has changed. Do you remember about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, there was a division between boxing and MMA fans. And now what I'm seeing is a lot of crossover, whether it's media, whether it's the fans. Why do you think that happened? Was boxing maybe a little bit threatened by the success of MMA and maybe pushed back? Or what do you think happened? Because I know Jim Lampley, a lot of people were very vocal at first, but now it's the other way around.
Well, boxing really was, I think, in the doldrums a little bit. And I'm lucky because I love them both. But yet, I'd walk into the gyms where I was training, and many people, you were either MMA or you were boxing. And the MMA guys could say nothing nice about boxers, and the boxing fans could say nothing nice about the MMA. And now I think because of a lot of crossover fights and the Conor McGregor stuff and the Mayweather this and that, I think they finally have kind of melted together, and I believe that all the fans, many of the fans I see who were MMA fans are now boxing fans and vice versa. And I think that also with the UFC just being so red hot, I think it basically forced a lot of the fight promoters to step up their game, and I think you've seen boxing really come on in the last few years. So we're getting the best of both worlds. I'm the happiest combat sports fan in the world.
No, I think boxing is doing the best it's been in the last probably 25, 30 years. There's so many good fighters.
Could be, Mark, yeah.
And so many good fights. I'm excited. It's the most resilient of all sports because they would say once Ali stopped fighting, it'll never be the same. Once De La Hoya. Mm-hmm. But there's always somebody. And right now, it's really really great. And I'm looking forward to being there Friday night. every time I want to go to a fight here, I got to fight out of the country, so I will not be at the Pacquiao fight. But
see, and I wish that I was going to be in Vegas for that one, for the Pacquiao-Broner fight. That is a fight where so many people, Pacquiao's an absolute legend. Here's a guy who's first ballot International Boxing Hall of Fame when the time comes. 8 divisions. Nobody's ever done in combat sports what he's done, from about 106 pounds or so right up through 147. It's amazing what he's done. And Adrian Broner just has a way of pissing people off. He just says the wrong thing at the right time, if you will, I suppose. And, ever starting with a few years ago, I guess it was on Showtime, when right after the fight, he got down on his knees, and you said, oh, wow, this is going to be so great. He's going to propose to his girlfriend. And then he got down and he said, brush my hair.
I forgot about that.
With that, I mean, yeah, from that moment, he just started to make enemies, and he doesn't care. He does not care. And I think it's going to be a terrific fight.
That's when a lot of people started saying, and not came, you know what I mean? But there's just been so many different stars that have come through, and that's even with like Andre, the death of boxing, or also maybe just the death of the pay-per-view star in boxing. But now we have Canelo that's reaching, the $1 million mark, or the million pay-per-view sales mark. So it's as strong as ever.
No, I agree. I like watching this Bud Crawford, Earl Spence. There's a lot of names now, and it's TV fights. I thought he was sensational.
I'm going to be watching with my 11-year-old grandson. He's really getting 12. These are the championship last night on.
And the story was
one of boxing's many over the decades. It really has been resilient. And as you said, Mark, once Ali was gone and Tyson was gone and Sugar Ray Leonard was gone, people were saying, oh, there goes boxing. Boxing's out of here. Well, here we are in 2019, looking, and again, as you said, Mark, maybe better than it's looked in decades. I think boxing is scorching hot right now.
No, I believe that. And
yeah, and this is where I become jealous, because aside from this Pacquiao fight that's coming up here in Vegas, there's one coming up in Errol Spence and Stadium, Mr. Ratner. Are we
here? Jerry Jones has talked to Dana about doing something there. So it's very possible. But when you really look at, we had the last time George St. Pierre fought in Toronto, the first fight we had there, we did 50,000.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
And then in Melbourne.
With Ronda and Holly, we had over, I think, 55,000.
And I think there was 45 at the stadium in Brazil, right?
We've had over 40 in Curitiba, I think it was.
Right.
We had a big fight in Sweden that started like at 2 in the morning, and we had, I think, 35,000.
So now I do one on the US of A soil.
But just the form, it looked much bigger with 25,000 people in a temporary stadium that they built probably in a month and tore down the next.
Who were racially motivated because they were all kind of.
Larry just didn't walk through them. I remember it vividly.
It was a very special night, and it's special for me to be working on At the Fights every Monday and Friday for 10 years with Jerry Cooney. I wish he walked out a few minutes right before we started, but just a great guy to work with. And let me I just got to tell everybody this story. It was back in the early 90s. I'm the head of the New York State Athletic Commission. Marc Ratner is the executive director of the Nevada State Athletic Commission, and I was asked, watch this ultimate fighting, this no-holds-barred fighting. If you like it, you're going to pass it. If you don't like it, you're going to turn thumbs down in New York. I saw it. I hated every moment of it. I called Mark. Mark became the first guy that I called, and I said, Mark, I'm going to ban it in New York. It's not happening. And Mark, if you remember, you said, then we'll do the same thing in Nevada. But soon after, they changed New York, and New York became the last state. Give thumbs up. Congratulations to you on getting it ratified in the States.
We're talking about New York and MMA.
Didn't you?
It was either 2016. And it's been a wonderful market for us. And so, Cerrone.
Oh, man.
Everybody is a good fighter until they get hit. It's one of Tyson's lines. And I want to see if this guy can stand up because Greg Hardy comes out swinging. I mean, he's going to knock you out in the first punch if he can.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting. So I'm looking forward to this card. But Paige Van Zant's on it. It's a good card. It'll be interesting to me. I'll get there.
And the ESPN era is now born.
That's a huge thing for us.
Yeah.
It'll help. It'll help the whole sport, but it's great for us. You'll see more shoulder programming. You'll see Dana on. I would say Mike and Mike, but Get Up, or you'll see him with Stephen A. And I mean all that stuff you wouldn't get on Fox.
Right.
No offense to Fox, which was a great partner for us, but this is definitely a vertical move for us, and I'm delighted.
For sure. All right, Randy, one last thing here before we let you go. Tell us a little bit about Pacquiao versus Broner. How do you see it going down? Give us a quick breakdown of that one.
Well, is Manny Pacquiao a young 40 years old, or is he 40 years old on the older side? If he's got the hand speed, if he's still got the combination punching, if he's too much for Adrian, who I think has been win it on a late round
Randy.
glove affair. It's worksofmy.com or Roman, ROWMAN.com. Glove affair.
It precedes our show, so 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. It is a quality boxing show. I catch it all the time. And Randy, it's been great having you on our show, so hopefully we can do this more often because I see a full boxing schedule coming up here in 2019.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. Happy New Year to you guys, and thanks also for having me on with the greatest boxing commissioner that's ever lived, Mr. Marc Ratner.
Well, thanks.
Love all you guys.
See you Friday night.
All right. Talk soon. Bye-bye. All right, we're going to take a break here. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation Channel 93. Stay close. We'll be right back.
Yeah,
I was buy Metallica just for me. So
Hell
thank you.
yeah.
So remember, Josh wanted to come to Vegas to come to this. This is the concert he wanted to go to,
Right.
and Mark went to it.
Oh boy. Okay. Very cool. You know, another rock band who they say is on their last legs as far as touring goes is in town soon. Kiss. I think Kiss has a show coming
But they
up.
say that all the time.
That's
don't
what
they?
I'm saying,
That
yeah.
particular group, I think.
Yeah, it's like, okay, this is the final one. But then they tour again. But I think Kiss is in town either tonight or tomorrow night. And then they come back again in February.
Yeah, it's amazing.
You
No,
know,
the
you might
money's
as well keep-
unbelievable. And Paul McCartney.
That. Well, no. Sir Hub entitled it something like my final go round or something. Who knows what? But of course, I kept saying that about Prince. Now I can never catch a Prince show. Let's chat a little. The New England Patriots. We have the LA Rams visiting last week. Clemson, Bama. How about that? And then you count the Pro Bowl. And of course, college basketball has also started. The local team here is UNLV and team in town. AAA. Are they AAA or what? Double A.
the soccer?
Yeah, AAA. The baseball.
The
Triple
lights.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, baseball.
Yeah. So I mean, this city's growing, and I'm telling
When
all the way to the
Energy.
Stanley Cup. That's and then of course they got swept, and but people stood to make any all over town. But that was
Well, here are the locker rooms. There'll be an NBA.
about 2 weeks, they've invited me to
Oh,
go take a
what's
look.
their tour? It's just
I don't know.
steel
Put a hard
beams.
hat on to see the steel beams. That's
Oh,
all.
okay. I was like,
well, okay. So we're gonna have that new stadium. We have the T-Mobile. We were talking earlier about watching fights here at Mandalay Bay, MGM. Even you're going to Madison Square Garden. They all kind of have their own identity. Like I like to tell people when I walk in, and you see some of those names up on the banners. You see Oscar De La Hoya and
Right.
Felix Trinidad. It's kind of like they have their bones and their soul. When you walk into a place like T-Mobile, who's had some pretty big fights as of late, and even places like Barclays now are starting to pick it up a little bit. I know they don't probably have that same feel now, but do you anticipate them having that eventually?
Well, those arenas that you're talking about are so big, and I don't know if that you'll have them for big fights, but you lose some of the intimacy. Now, the Conor fight with Floyd that was a real sellout. Big crowd. I really like both Mandalay and MGM Grand Garden just for it's a different feeling with the fans. It's closer, but I can't imagine any arena any prettier than the T-Mobile. And if you have a good seat, it's one thing. If you're sitting way on top, unless you're standing by the bar, you're not watching it the same way.
Did you like the Forum back in the day, the way they had it before?
Oh yeah, here's a little Forum story. I went to see Kenny Norton fight Ali at the Forum.
oh wow.
So
Is that when he broke his jaw?
he broke his jaw in San Diego.
Okay.
That's the second fight. Then they ended up, I think, at Yankee Stadium or in New York for the third fight. But even the second fight, I thought that Norton won, but Ali got the decision. But going back to the Forum, well, first of all, as everybody knows who is listening, we had planned on being here. We had sold tickets here, almost $6 million worth of tickets.
Going back to the 232 card. Okay.
232 card. So, and then the commission said they needed more time and they couldn't have an emergency meeting. So that's for John Jones. So we moved the fight on a Sunday afternoon. We put tickets on sale in L.A. at the Forum on Wednesday. Sold 14,000 tickets in about 3 days. Had a $2 million gate. I don't think any other promoter in the world could have done that. Could have saved the show. And it turned out to be a wonderful show. Besides which, and John looked good, and
Historical with Amanda
and
winning 2 titles.
Amanda, she actually stole the show to me.
I agree.
I just thought she was tremendous. I think that's a great rematch. Cyborg, you wouldn't think that would have happened to her, and she was buzzed. She was knocked out.
A couple times she got hit really hard, and she stayed in the fight. I remember tweeting towards Mark Goddard. I thought he did an outstanding job of. He was about to interject, but then he noticed she still had fight left, and Cyborg would, you're looking for some sort of signals to keep you in there. But because of that, Amanda's so precise, so powerful, so fast. In the end, she just crumbled, you know. But that fight was amazing in terms of just the electricity, the vibe. And I was at home. I wasn't even in the arena.
Yeah.
So when John Jones came out with versus Alexander Gustafsson, I just thought, well, this is the cherry on the sundae. Like, this is gravy. Whatever happens here, I've already had a great night because it culminated with those ladies. And then John was so masterful that you're right. It was like Amanda, like there wasn't that pop, you know, I guess, other than him just, you know, when they waved the fight off. But that was something else.
And when Amanda won, it seemed like the whole arena just jumped out of their seats, and it was really something. I believe that Mark Goddard has become one of the top referees in the sport. I'm real pleased that we use him all over Europe, and now Bob Bennett from the commission is using him here. So he's worked in, I believe, in New Jersey and New York. So he's doing great.
Yeah. We got to take one more break, right? Yep. All right. It's the MMA Junkie Radio Show on Fight Nation Channel 93. We're joined by UFC Vice President of Regulatory Affairs, Marc Ratner. He's here in studio with us. And we'll be right back. And I'll tell you what, they're only down 1, but there's only 3. So I got thrown off. But have you guys seen that special Bean Serena?
I haven't, no.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
Very well done. No, tremendous athlete. She's probably the best athlete I've done.
And I guess it'll always be back trail. Come back. She's once by a woman. Amazing back and showed her.
Yeah, it's accused. I go back to the
Turning defending champs.
and I haven't forgiven Krzyzewski since. And Duke came here 2 years ago. He beat him by 50. Then I think he went.
Oh, because when UNLV won it, they won it by 20 or 30, right?
I mean, it was like
4 years ago. Was it at the Orleans? That's
it's pretty hard to say the target.
Down.
Goes. Now.
Nevada, the state of Nevada, $2 million. Habib Nurmagomedov are going to have to face the Nevada State Athletic Commission soon. We've talked about on this show that maybe $250,000 will be either appropriate or probably the number we think that they're going to dole out with a suspension, 6 months, a year, we don't know. What's your feeling of how this, like if you compare it to, I guess, an incident in boxing that we would all love to forget versus an incident in MMA that we'd all love to forget?
Well, the Tyson, he was fined 10% of his purse, which was $30 million. It was a $3 million.
Oh, it was $3 million.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was it was a crazy night. I remember it vividly. But the incident that happened with Khabib and Conor was over in about 45 seconds. It seemed like it was a half hour or something, but with the security, it stopped immediately.
Yes.
Now, the one thing that I've always felt about Conor, if Khabib hadn't jumped out, Conor would have been a good loser, because he would have just said, "Hey, you beat me tonight," no, and he would have been fine. But once he jumped out, and how Khabib didn't get hurt, because he leapt probably 3 feet. I mean, it was something.
He looked like a triple jumper, right?
Yeah,
the last portion of the
he
triple
climbed
jump.
the wall and the fence. And
if he would have connected, I think he would have fallen back.
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing was surreal. The commission is having a hearing on the 29th, and we'll see what they do. I have no opinion on what they'll do. But I hope it's reasonable and that they both can fight this year.
Can you bat on behalf of the UFC in a meeting like that, using your experience, having seen, I guess, something, again, that's outside of the combat?
What they asked me is, what have we had happen similar?
That's a good point you brought up about Conor. No one on this show that either calls in or us or other media have said that if Habib doesn't do that, Conor more than likely just takes his loss like he has in the past.
I
and
think
that's
he would have
that.
handled it. Yeah. I mean, we've had incidents. Floyd was fighting. He was fighting Zab Judah, if you remember. Zab hits him low. Floyd's Uncle Roger jumps in the ring. Corner put his arm 8 away from it. Find Zab 200. Oh, yeah, we've had. Hopefully not again.
Teams, right? In boxing, whenever you do have these melees, it's a lot of people on each side. In mixed martial arts, you're only allowed so many people to come out. Do you know why it is that boxing, why that's never been tightened on them?
Tradition. We've tried to do that, keep people out of the ring before the fights. You put the cameraman, he's got some guy holding his cord. They got to probably have 2 people behind him. The ring fills up pretty quick. The good thing about a cage is that it's supposedly hard to get into. Now, we had a couple people jump into the cage who will also be disciplined, I would imagine, at this hearing. So I never thought that would happen.
Where were you when all that broke out anyway? Still at ringside or octagon side?
Yeah.
What was going through your head? I mean, I know there's a little bit of a been there, done that, but
no, it was frightening because you never know about the whole rest of the audience, and that could have gotten very, very much worse. And if it had got into the audience and fans started fighting, it would have been horrible. Mm-hmm. But like I said, it was probably 45 seconds. It was quelled quickly, and it was over.
UFC had a good security team that night, and so did
Metro. Police.
Exactly.
And so did the T-Mobile. I mean, we had everything in place. We just, for whatever reason, we weren't
can't
prepared
forecast
for that.
One.
No.
Yeah, especially from Habib. Honestly, I guess there was an incident once at a PFL, formerly WSOF, but for the most part, I really didn't think Habib would jump a fence and do that.
Yeah.
And I guess he had this pent-up anger from the quote bus incident.
Yeah.
And I don't know. We don't know what goes through these guys' heads.
You weren't in the bus, right? In Brooklyn?
No.
Okay.
No, I was in. It was in Brooklyn then too. I was in Brooklyn, but I was. This was like a press conference. There's no reason for me to go to some of those things. I was more concerned about the weigh-in than the next morning. But
did you? I was joking about the second home in Albany. I thought it was more like maybe 8, 10, a dozen tops. 30 times you had to go and lobby?
Maybe 29.
On behalf of the UFC?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because legislatures change, so you just got to keep selling it. But as I said, it was not about the sport. It was some people, but even on the Speaker of the House, he got indicted. His name was Shelley Silver. And not surprisingly, once we never had a vote in these 8 years. We would get through all these committees, through Ways and Means, through just, there was quite a few different committees, tourism, and we come to the assembly, and he would just say, you don't have enough support. And that was it. We never had a vote. So finally we got this vote in 2016, and I think it was 126 to 25 or something. That's how overwhelming it was.
Right.
And it was. I was in the upstairs where you can watch, and some of our people were there, and it was very emotional for me because it was 8 years of work, and it certainly wasn't only me. We had quite a few people. Rhonda went to it a couple times. Chris Weidman. So we had help. But it was wonderful when we finally got it passed. And then that first fight at the Garden with Conor was a real special night. 20,000 people at the Garden.
Yeah.
How did you celebrate that night, by the way?
The night the governor.
Anything special?
Well, we had some champagne toast when we got through with it. But the day the governor signed the bill, which was, a couple months later, I went to see Hamilton that night.
Oh.
With the original cast, so
wow,
that's how I celebrated.
Nice.
I'm sort of an eclectic guy. I can go from rock and roll to plays to.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I keep looking at ESPN, and at the bottom they keep showing the UFC, the little thing.
I saw that.
That's so cool. And the one thing that I can think of is you've been such a big part of mixed martial arts history now. At some point, if they were to come to you and say, we like to do these 30 for 30s, what would you think would be a good idea for a mixed martial arts 30 for 30? Where would you have them start?
Well, we have this 25 years we're doing right now, and there's sort of like 15 to 25, 30 minutes, and those are like 30 by 30, 30 and 30. But we had one on New York, and do you guys have the Fight Pass? And look on Fight Pass. I think it's called New York State of Mind, and it's everything I'm saying it was, and they had different iterations of my commission. Sometimes I had long hair back in the day.
Scarf, no scarf.
Scarf, no scarf, right. But, those are what you're talking about. From making the octagon, there'll be 25 of them for every year that since the sport's 25 years old, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you're talking about a brand new sport still.
I'll tell you why I wasn't toasting. Because I knew, and you mentioned all these cards. This is the 16th one in New York?
Greedy George here.
I believe it's not 16, but it's probably 9 or 10.
Because I know Utica, Rochester or something like that. Buffalo got hit again. Been a couple of Brooklyn MSGs, Long Island.
Yeah.
I knew it was going to be at the expense of probably one Vegas card per year. Remember we used to have Super Bowl, Memorial Day, 4th of July, Labor Day, end of the year card. And sometimes we'd even get one if another city fell through. We're getting like 6, and 3 of them would be at Mandalay Bay. Of course, the T-Mobile, they changed that. No more MGM, no more Mandalay Bay. But I had a feeling that one of those big cards could impact here.
That could be, but we're also doing many more international fights.
Yeah.
And like you alluded to before, I go to Brooklyn, but I'll be going to Melbourne. Then we're going to the Czech Republic. I think that'll be fabulous.
You're going to that one too?
Yeah. I'm an old guy. I got to go to these things while I can.
Okay. Seems like a lot of travel, though.
Well, it is. They're not same week.
Melbourne's a pay-per-view, so I understand that one.
Yeah. First time we've ever been to Prague. We'll self-regulate there. So I'm looking forward to that.
I got you. Okay.
And
you ever been to Prague?
No.
You're gonna love it.
It's cool.
Take a boat tour on the St. Charles River.
For me, it's about the weather too.
Yeah.
If you take a boat tour and it's not horribly cold, but I try to. When I go to these foreign countries, we were in not St. Petersburg. We were in Moscow, but 8 weeks ago or something. And I love Red Square. Now maybe it's more tourism than I thought it would be, but all those colorful mosques and buildings, and it was pretty special. I never felt scared there or anything. So,
yeah, they just had a whole World Cup. Same thing.
Yeah.
So our mom's from Peru, and a lot of our relatives' friends went to Russia and said the same thing. We never felt unsafe.
Right.
Now, depends on what you watch. If you get on the wrong YouTube thread or you watch a Vice card, all of a sudden they're telling you, hey, you got to watch your back, and it could convince a lot of people that maybe it's not the best place to go. And I heard the exact opposite.
Well, we have a fight in Fortaleza, Brazil, in 2 weeks, I believe it is. 2 or 3 weeks. And there are some unrest there right now with the new government, and they've had some problems in some prisons. And we have to take special precautions, telling people where they can be and stay in the hotel. Don't go anywhere by yourself.
Is that your own research and vetting from the UFC, or is that like the State Department that you guys read?
That's from Endeavor and our partners.
Oh, wow. Have you ever felt unsafe at any of the cities that you've overseen or just?
No. But we had a fight in Rio, I believe, where some kids, they're all kids to me, were on the beach and they got robbed.
I heard about that, yeah.
Yeah, so, and that was within walking distance of the hotel. It was like across the street by the ocean, so.
Wow.
So you never know.
Yeah. Stadium show. You think Vegas will beat Cowboys? So this stadium, I guess it's going to be completed before the 2020, so let's just call it July or something.
Right.
But the Dallas Cowboy one is already in existence, and I know that Dana White has considered having a show there. So what do you think? Basically, we're talking about 18 months. You think the UFC will have a stadium show? And I imagine if they're going to have one, it'd be at Dallas Cowboy Stadium before they build this one here, because I imagine this one's going to have – everybody talks about the Raiders. Look, I'm excited about the Raiders too, but I'm excited about the NBA All-Star game, the Pro Bowl,
Final Four.
the Final Four. We're going to get a lot. We're going to get WrestleManias. And I throw in there big boxing pay-per-views and big MMA pay-per-views. So what do you think?
Well, I think it's a big possibility, yeah. But once again, no offense to our main event this week, that's not going to fill up a stadium. And there's very few fighters that you could build around. When you're talking about that, probably it'll seat 60,000 here for an MMA event or a boxing card. But you have to have the right fight, a very special fight. And
does that fight exist right now, guys?
What fight?
Jones Cormier, maybe, if part 3, or
something
the one that can fill out the. Let's say the stadium is built, and they wanted to have a stadium show. Is there a bad blood fight right now?
I think it always has to do with the heavyweights. A big
I mean,
heavyweight fight.
Conor and Habib, obviously, right?
Conor, Khabib, Conor, and Nate.
That I think you could
with another title fight. I think.
Yeah. You'd have to have 2 or 3 title fights, to make it a real special event. But it's.
What's your relationship with McGregor? How much have you had to interact with him, and what are your thoughts of him compared to all of the boxing characters that you've?
The first time I met him, we were in Sweden, and he was probably the 6th or 7th fight on the card, and he won fight of the night. So we knew he was special. Excuse me, but my dealings with him have been very, very good. It makes me laugh. I mean, I think away from it all, he's just a regular guy, just like Tyson's a regular guy. If they have a whole bunch of people around him, sometimes it gets a little bit nutty. But Oscar, I got along with real well. It's funny with John Jones, he always forgets my name, and he says, "Hey Einstein, come over here." So,
really?
Yeah.
You're Einstein to him?
Yeah. So I don't know. That's a compliment. I'm taking it.
Wow. 91-88 in the third overtime of the Syracuse and in the overtime of the Syracuse and Duke game. Now it's 92-88. There's 1 minute and 19 seconds left. How about that, guys?
I would love it. Like I said, I'm anybody but Duke.
For a team like Syracuse to have that many points on the board you'll never see that much, man. They're very good defensively.
Even more at Duke.
At Duke. This is supposed to be like a Big East ACC thing or something, or maybe they just scheduled it because by now they should have league games, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Just like that. There was a 3.
All right. All right. You going to say something?
Well, I was going to ask you, when we had Randy Gordon on, I got to hear a little bit of his stories, some of yours in the past. As a commissioner, I'm sure you had like a reputation or just the way that people viewed you. Can you speak on how did people view Randy, and then how do you think people viewed you? What was your personality as a commissioner?
Randy's, like I said, in the beginning he was against MMA, and when I first heard about MMA, I just knew a little bit about it, and I said this on a Larry King TV show. I was on there with Senator McCain on one side, and Ken Shamrock and the former owner Bob Meyerowitz were on the other side, and I said this, and this is probably in 1997, that we can't have a sport that you can't regulate with no holds barred, anything goes, no rules, even though they had some rules. So I publicly said that, and then when they put the unified rules in, then certainly we could do it. But Randy was very well respected there. I think that he probably left the commission sometime in the mid-'90s. It's been a while. So, but I've always kept in touch with him. I'm anxious to read his book, and I'm actually trying. I'm trying to write a book. It's not easy. Because you're
gonna have to write 3, man. As much as you've experienced.
But what you have is you still got to be able to get a publisher. It's not you just don't write a book. You have to have a ghostwriter. And so
you have to divide it like in eras, I think.
Yeah. So there's a lot of logistics. I'm going to meet with some people Friday actually at William Morris Endeavor to see if they've got some bites on a publisher. So anyway, I would
very
like to do that.
Cool. Well, what's the title? Einstein.
Title. I just want to do one chapter at a time, and you start with start in the beginning and go through it. It'd be more stories than anything.
You could almost divide it into just boxing and MMA, but then you got a whole life outside of combat sports altogether. You know what I mean? That would be really, really interesting. All right, Gus says we have some calls. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Who do we have, Gus?
Got Hal from Chicago.
What's up, Hal? How you doing?
Hey, what's up, man? Guys, thinking about this Benavidez-Ortiz matchup, man. This Benavidez going right back into it against this dangerous guy. Is he still with Rufus?
Hello? You talking about the Dustin Ortiz, Joseph Benavidez fight?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Ortiz Benavidez.
Yeah,
man.
that's a rematch.
You know, that's very dangerous.
Benavidez won the first time. Ortiz has looked good. He actually got cut from the UFC, if I'm not mistaken. Came back, but he's actually looked really, really good. Benavidez, for a long time, could say, hey, look, I've only lost to Cruz and Demetrius Johnson, two of the greatest ever, until he lost the Pettis fight. And I thought, oh, no, I wonder if that might be kind of like a, you know, like if he had maybe had peaked and now the younger guys were going to put one over on him. But as you can see, he won his last fight. So this should be a really, really tough fight, man, for both guys.
Hey, and a question for Mark. How you doing, Mark?
Fine, thanks.
What, like, for you being up close in a live fight, what was a moment where you said to yourself, this has gone too far, I want this fight stopped, where it kind of made you cringe? Because I imagine you're used to a lot of stuff, but what's a fight that stuck out where you thought, man, this is going way too far? I'll take it off the air. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Hal, for the question.
One of those fights I remember, and I used to have a little, with the referees in boxing, I would maybe between rounds say to Richard Steele, let's look at him real closely or something. One of the ones I remember was De La Hoya and Gotti, and Arturo Gotti. And we did that, and then he stopped it the next round. I mean, you always want to stop it a little bit early than later, that's for sure. But it's tough, especially in MMA. It's even tougher. So
Syracuse pulled off the upset, by the way. And do you have an MMA comparable to what you just?
I mean, there's some fights that I'm trying to think of one where I thought it should have been stopped a little earlier. I remember we had a girls' fight in Brazil where the referee didn't stop it.
Valentina Shevchenko.
Yeah. And it should have been stopped. It's just it's tough. It's what boxing's hard to referee, but MMA is even harder because there's so many ways that you could win. And here's what I have found more than anything. We go to all these different states, and everybody's a great official from these states. You know, I've talked to the commission. They, you know, maybe they've worked before 200 people. All of a sudden, we come in and there's 10,000, and it's a different world.
Oh yeah.
And on the floor, and it's different. And you got to make a split to back off and said fight. And then Benavidez choked him out. But
they're great refs, and sometimes they'll make the call. They'll go back and review it and bring in a Mike Pereira, a Mike Carey, a Dean Blake. It really is difficult to do. I know these guys catch a lot of flack, but we have some really, really good quality. Have a nice try. And going back to what you said earlier, that's what John McCarthy.
Mark Goddard, like we said, Dan Miragliotta. No, there's a lot of goods, and it takes a while to get that experience too. Yeah, we'll take a look at them. But it's I'd like to see more women get involved. We have a good women official in Brazil, but do you have to be a practitioner to be a good official? It doesn't hurt, that's for sure. I haven't been able to stop it. All these referees, they like to be on there, and I'm against that. To 92 or whatever it was way off. It was Adelaide Bird, who's a good judge, and it hurt her for a while.
What fight was that one?
Social media, you know, all those big names that we've mentioned, they've all had things here and there that happen. It's human nature. It's one of the hardest jobs you can possibly have. But do you feel like
a couple times for the Pereiras and all these guys?
Host today, he is the Vice President of Regulatory Affairs.
Darth Vader tells Luke
the game, plus you'll have the opportunity to serve as SiriusXM's official blog reporter. For official rules and to enter, go to SiriusXM/Super Bowl due before January 23rd. And Mark, would you like to join us?
Let's hear what the subject is.
All right. Oh, and I just shrunk it. Here we go. This fighter is most likely to win her first UFC champ, or at least challenge the champ if you don't want to make a clear-cut prediction. And also think about the
sleeper coming up at 135, and maybe a tough cut and so on.
Hey, I'm fine. You were talking about Nate Diaz versus Conor McGregor. I was wondering what you think about Max Holloway as a side B to like pay-per-view buys. How you think that would?
Will always be the A side.
In MMA, Conor will always be the A side. In fact, in any combat sports, Conor will be the A side with the.
If they made this fight in Hawaii,
I don't know about Gate or whatever. Like as far as prediction,
he did 1/4 of that. That's 1.1 million pay-per-views. That's quite a night. Oh man, I don't know. I think it's closer to 3.
Think so?
Yeah.
That wouldn't shock me.
I think Floyd's counter is. I think Floyd's counter is Conor, or whoever would be making this argument for Conor would have to be such devil's advocate. Would have to connect such dots just to overtop Floyd in some small window of time, where this window I could technically be wiped away when Floyd reminds him what happened. They met in the ring. What matters?
Right. No, I
that exhibition though, that in Japan must have opened.
I get paid to say things in this cool voice.
Yeah.
They get paid to be lame. Here are Gorgeous George and Go.
Yeah, I was gonna say you don't want to objectify them within within the name of the song. I guess it'd have to be maybe Megan Anderson because she's tall, she's got long legs, but I don't know.
It is. This might be I don't know what happens to the 125-pound division. That'll be interesting to see, and we'll see what Greg Hardy's got in this fight.
Well, that's what they said, that if Cejudo wins, that 25.
When I see him, he's got abs.
Be upped with the UFC. All right, tell me, I guess, these last 3 years, what your thoughts have been on the USADA era.
Well, I think they've definitely. I think we're much better today than we were.
You know what I mean?
If you mess around, you're going to get caught, and I have no problems with USADA. I just wanted to. I want the sport. I remember way back, and I was still at the commission, so it's got to be me. Here's the way I look at MMA and boxing. At home, I have 2 children. My older child is boxing. My younger one is MMA.
But all right. Thank you so much for stopping by and hanging out with us and talking to Brooklyn. Folks, we will be talking about the UFC Brooklyn Up, where Henry Cejudo will put his flyweight title against